My best friend kept criticizing my parenting and called me negligent, then proceeded to badmouth me to her friends because she was jealous of my son and me. My friend accused me of being a negligent mother because my son had a runny nose, but she was just trying to make herself look good by criticizing me. I, 31F, have a son, Leo, who is 4 years old. My friend, Deanna, also 31F, has been my closest friend since we were in middle school. Recently, Deanna has become more opinionated about my parenting choices. It seems like I can't do anything right in her eyes. It started a few months ago when my son came down with a cold. Deanna called me one afternoon and asked how Leo was doing. I told her that he seemed to be on the mend and I was keeping him home from preschool. Deanna's tone shifted from concern to judgmental, as she asked why my child was constantly sick and if I was feeding him properly. I told her he is just a kid and kids get sick. I tried to change the topic, but Diana continued criticizing me and insisted that I should be doing more to boost his immune system. She started listing supplements and health products that she had researched online. I politely listened, but didn't implement them since they were not recommended by Leo's pediatrician. Then, she began to ask me how much I take my son to parks and outdoor activities. She made me feel as if I'm locking him inside for the entire day, when, in fact, I take him out to play outside every day, and to do age-appropriate sports and activities a few times a week. After this conversation, I found that Deanna began criticizing many different things that I do with my son. If I let him have candy, I'm a horrible mother. If I discipline him, I'm too harsh. If I let him be a kid, I'm too soft. Deanna has always been very competitive, but recently it has been focused on our parenting styles. When Deanna found out that I was considering getting Leo vaccinated with the flu shot, she went off. She sent me multiple links to websites that claimed that flu shots were dangerous. She tried to convince me that my son didn't need a flu shot. I asked my doctor about it, and they said the shot would be the best way to keep him safe and healthy during the flu season. It all came to a head a few days ago when Leo had a runny nose. I kept him home since I didn't want him to spread his germs to his classmates. That afternoon, Deanna came to my house unannounced. She looked at my son and said in a very cold tone that I should be more responsible as a parent because his nose was running like a faucet, and this was due to my negligent parenting. She then proceeded to take him to the bathroom and used a wet paper towel to clean his nose. She grabbed a saline spray bottle from her purse and squirted some of the spray up my child's nose without my permission. I asked her to please stop touching my son. She proceeded to tell me that since she's been reading on health magazines about the importance of cleaning your child's nose when they have a runny nose, I needed to be more proactive and not just ignore my child's needs. I was beyond furious that she came to my home, uninvited, to criticize my parenting choices and perform unwanted treatments on my son. I told her that her behavior was extremely inappropriate and that she didn't have the right to make those types of decisions with my child. She started crying, saying that I am just being dismissive and she was just trying to help. I kicked her out of the house. After this incident, I asked her to give me space and stop talking to me. She has been sending me emails and texts insisting that I'm overreacting, that she only wants the best for my child, and that we need to sit down and have a reasonable conversation. Now, I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong here. Should I have been more open to her suggestions? Am I a bad mother for not taking Deanna's advice? Update 1. After thinking about what everyone said in the comments and taking some time to cool down, I realized I need to talk to Deanna directly and find a way to address her toxic behaviors. It's been hard to ignore all her texts and emails, so I responded and asked to meet up with her in a public place. She agreed right away. When we met, I started by addressing the incident in my home, specifically what she did to Leo and how it made me feel. I told her that going into my home and touching my son was a violation and that I can take care of my son, no problem. Deanna apologized for not respecting my boundaries, but then proceeded to say that she only did it out of love. She claimed she was worried that I was ignoring my son's needs. I had a hard time keeping calm after hearing that. I told her directly that I wasn't ignoring my son's needs, and that I'm a responsible mother who loves her child and will care for him in the best way that she can. I then shifted the conversation towards her consistent criticisms of my parenting style and her need to make me feel bad for not being like her. I asked why she felt the need to compare our parenting methods and try to force her ideas onto me. Deanna hesitated, but admitted that she was feeling inadequate and insecure in her own life. She said that she has always been very competitive with me, and that, since she hasn't started a family of her own yet, She has been trying to make up for it by trying to feel like she has superior knowledge on parenting to justify not having kids. I was shocked to hear this. I asked if that's the reason why she is always trying to criticize the choices that I make. Deanna started crying and said that she didn't mean to make me feel bad, and that all along she was only doing this because she's actually struggling with being jealous of my son. She confessed that every time she saw me with my son, she felt as if she was missing out and it made her feel very lonely. I asked why she never told me this, especially because she knows that I'd help her. She said that she was ashamed that she had all of these negative feelings. She told me that she didn't want to confront her loneliness and instead wanted to take out those feelings on me. I felt bad for her and tried to be understanding, but I also made it clear that her feelings do not give her a free pass to overstep boundaries and treat me and my son as she wishes. We talked for a long time, and I feel like I got some clarity. While I know I cannot change who she is, it's still important for me to set my boundaries and protect myself and my child. Update 2. After that conversation, Deanna and I decided to take a break from each other, and we both agreed not to contact each other for a while. It's been a few weeks now, and my life has been so much better. Without her consistent criticisms, I have felt more confident in my parenting skills and overall, just a lot happier. Although I was tempted to break the no-contact rule, I'm proud that I didn't. Last week, I went out for a walk when I ran into one of Deanna's old work friends, Ashley. I knew Ashley and Deanna were friendly, but not best friends, so I thought this conversation would be simple. When Ashley saw me, she seemed visibly annoyed and pulled me aside to tell me that Deanna has been badmouthing me to all her friends. She said that Deanna has been portraying me as a negligent and horrible mother who doesn't know how to take care of her son. According to Ashley, Deanna's friends have started to see me negatively and don't understand why Ashley would be friends with me, someone that's a bad mother. I was furious. After all the discussions we had, she went around spreading lies behind my back to validate her insecurities. I thought she was finally being honest with me, but it seemed like she was just lying to me for the sake of feeling better about herself. I texted her telling her what I had heard. I made it clear that I no longer wanted her in my life and blocked her from everything. Ashley and I made plans to go out for a lunch with her friend group to clear my name up. I'm also planning to cut contact with any friends who won't believe me because I feel like they are not good friends and will side with Deanna. I'm very grateful for my family, my husband and my son who have always supported me and told me that I'm an excellent mother. In short, I'm done. I feel like if my friend is a liability rather than a positive force in my life, I don't have to stay friends with her. Thank you all for all the support and advice. It made me feel as if I'm not as bad as I am in her eyes. My aunt tried to steal my grandmother's house after she passed, but now I inherited it all, and I am no contact with my entire family because of it. My grandmother left me her entire estate after my aunt tried to steal her house and belongings. I'm cutting contact with her and everyone who supports her. I, 31F, have always been close with my grandmother, Beatrice, 92F. She practically raised me when my parents were working and had always been my rock. My aunt, Evelyn, 64F, on the other hand, has always been difficult and has a history of being incredibly jealous of my relationship with my grandmother. My grandmother is a strong and independent woman who owns a large house in a very affluent neighborhood and also several other properties, which she managed herself. My aunt has been trying to get her hands on my grandmother's estate since I was a little girl. After my grandfather passed, my aunt would constantly attempt to convince my grandmother to sell the house and move in with her in another city, claiming she was doing her a favor. My grandmother made it very clear that she wanted to stay put. This happened almost every other month when I was growing up. Because of all the fighting, my parents always told me to stay away from them, which I did. I would just keep visiting my grandmother and make her as happy as possible. As my grandmother got older, Evelyn began trying to take over managing my grandmother's affairs. She started trying to control who visited, which doctor my grandmother saw, and even tried to move my grandmother out of her home without her consent a few times. When my grandmother had to have a surgery a few years ago, my aunt went as far as to try to forge my grandmother's signature on some documents to sell the house. I don't know what would have happened had I not been there to stop her. My grandmother, despite her age, caught her doing it, and my parents were livid. It prompted them to get my grandmother a good lawyer. When my grandmother turned 90, she decided to rewrite her will. Everyone knew Evelyn had been trying to get her hands on the house, so I thought she would give half to me and half to my aunt. But she did something that was unexpected, something my aunt didn't like very much. My grandmother left everything to me. The will stated that the house and all her assets, including the properties, would go to me. To my surprise, my aunt wasn't included anywhere in it. When my grandmother passed away last week, her lawyer read her will to the family. My aunt went absolutely berserk, screaming that I must have tricked my grandmother into giving me everything. My parents stood by me and told Evelyn that she had done this to herself, that my grandmother did not like how she was treating her and had chosen her legacy wisely. Evelyn didn't believe it, telling me that this wasn't right and I didn't deserve it. A couple of my other cousins told me that she had been bad-mouthing me the past couple of years since she learned about her will. I always thought that she just hated me in secret. This time, she didn't even try to hide her contempt. She tried to convince the rest of the family to pressure me into giving her half, which I absolutely refused to do. I'm currently in the process of taking over the house and all the properties and plan on doing things my own way. I decided to cut contact with my aunt completely, as well as those who support her. My parents think it's best. I feel really conflicted and don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Update 1. Thank you all for your advice and kind words. Reading all of your comments and suggestions helped me calm down and realize I wasn't in the wrong. First things first, I want to give a little more detail about my grandmother and aunt's relationship dynamic to make more sense of why my grandmother did what she did. Growing up, my Aunt Evelyn was always the favorite. My grandmother paid for Evelyn's wedding, her college education, several family vacations, multiple down payments for her houses, and helped out whenever she was struggling financially. In her defense, Evelyn was my grandmother's first child, so I can understand that in a way. On the other hand, she was also known to be quite manipulative. I remember my grandmother told me about how she would cry to get her way when she was a little girl. Even now, she sometimes does this when trying to get my grandmother to sell the house. Evelyn was also given to jealousy, which she never hid or apologized for. My grandmother wasn't perfect, but she was always kind and generous. After my grandfather passed away, Evelyn became overly reliant on her mother, my grandmother. She'd show up at her door for help with everything from cooking to picking out her outfits. My grandmother was always there to help her. When I became an adult, Evelyn's resentment of me increased. She didn't like how close my grandmother and I were. She hated how we'd take trips, go out to dinner together, and share intimate conversations with each other. Evelyn's jealousy led her to spread rumors about me to other family members and to anyone that would listen. I've heard from multiple family members about some of the things Evelyn has been telling them, including accusations of me taking advantage of my grandmother to steal her assets. In the last update, I mentioned that she tried to forge my grandmother's signature to sell the house. That's only a small piece of it. On one occasion, she even tried to convince my grandmother that I was addicted to drugs and needed to be cut off. When that didn't work, she tried telling my grandmother that my parents were stealing money from her, when in reality it was her. When my grandmother confronted her, Evelyn tried turning things around, saying that I was gaslighting my grandmother. All of this is the reason why my grandmother decided to cut Evelyn off. My parents didn't have to tell her what was happening. She saw it herself. She knew Evelyn wanted her money, not her. Back to the update. After reading everyone's comments and doing some thinking, I decided to block all my cousins who were siding with my aunt on social media and changed my phone number to avoid their calls. My mom has been calling me and telling me that it is a family matter and that I'm taking things way too far. I told her that she was free to support my aunt, but I was done with the toxicity and was not going to let her manipulate me. I told my parents that if they try to convince me to forgive Evelyn or have a relationship with her again, I would cut them out of my life too. My dad said that while he doesn't agree with my decision, he understands. My mother was silent and hasn't talked to me since. I also went to see my grandmother's lawyer, and he has confirmed the will is valid and has started the process of transferring everything to my name. I'm still in the middle of sorting things out, but I feel like I made the right choice by deciding to go no contact with Evelyn. I'm sad that her actions affected other people in my family, but I'm not willing to engage with them either. I'm at peace. Update 2. Things have been hectic these last few weeks. I am currently living in my grandmother's house and plan on doing some minor renovations in the following months. I've also started going through all the paperwork and things left by my grandmother in order to get things in order. I learned that my aunt and her lawyer are attempting to contest the will, which my grandmother's lawyer described as a Hail Mary, since all the documents are in order, and the lawyer said that my grandmother wasn't under duress or coercion when she signed the papers, nor did she have any sort of mental problems. It's a lost cause. It feels awful that my aunt is still making my life difficult even after my grandmother's passing. It's infuriating to me and my parents, but we're prepared to deal with her. I'm also keeping track of who is siding with her in order to never engage with them in the future. This process is a little draining, especially since I also have to deal with my parents' reactions. It has been hard. My dad has been very supportive and he hasn't asked me to change my mind. Meanwhile, my mom has been begging me to forgive my aunt. My aunt has sent me threatening text messages, accusing me of stealing from her own mother. My mom is encouraging me to consider my aunt's feelings since she lost her mother as well. She keeps telling me that my grandmother wouldn't want this to happen, but I know that my grandmother would agree with the choice that I made. My aunt made her life miserable, and it was my grandmother who decided to write her out of her will, not me. My mom doesn't seem to want to get over this. I'm not sure if I should block her, but my dad asked me to give her some time to cool down before making rash decisions. Even though she did side with my aunt, she is still my mom. For now, I'm trying to stay focused on taking care of my grandmother's legacy and preparing for this lawsuit my aunt has started. I will keep you updated on what happens. I'm thankful to everyone for commenting on my first posts. It makes me feel less alone in this. I think that's all for now. Update 3. I'm updating again to tell you all that the judge dismissed my aunt's case. The hearing took 3 days, and she ended up looking like an absolute fool in front of the judge. My grandmother's lawyer and the evidence he provided were too strong, and no matter what my aunt and her lawyer tried to say, the judge didn't see any reason to invalidate the will. My aunt and her lawyer ended up throwing a tantrum in court and were immediately kicked out. According to my grandmother's lawyer, her case is lost, and she has no chance of winning any appeal. It's finally over. The house and all my grandmother's other things are officially mine. This entire process has been exhausting and honestly has been making me feel depressed. In the past few months, I've been doing nothing but worrying about this, dealing with my mom's nagging, and avoiding any phone calls or contact with relatives that might side with my aunt. Now it's done. I'm finally able to have a little peace of mind. However, one thing is clear to me. I can't stand my mother's behavior anymore. She's been constantly calling me to guilt-trip me into having a relationship with my aunt, and despite being told multiple times, she keeps pushing it. My dad said that he had been trying to talk to her about it, but she doesn't want to listen to anyone. I have made the difficult decision to block my mother on all social media platforms and cut contact. My dad will still be able to contact me, but he'll have to respect my boundaries, or I'll cut contact with him too. I hate that my family has been ruined because of greed and resentment. I hate that my aunt couldn't accept my grandmother's choice. I hate that my own mother sided with a woman who wanted to ruin me. I hate that I have to do this. I truly believed that everyone would be supportive after my grandmother's passing and that we could finally move on, but apparently I was wrong. I am cutting them off for my own peace of mind, even if it hurts. I think that this is the end of my updates unless something else happens, but for now, I think everything is in order. I am taking this opportunity to start fresh and move forward with my grandmother's legacy and everything that entails. Thank you everyone for your support. It has been a wild ride. My husband, Arthur, stole our company's tech secrets for a rival. I'm divorcing him, suing him, and will ruin him for his betrayal. My husband, Arthur, has been secretly working with a rival company to steal our inventions, and now I'm going to ruin him. I, 38F, have always been the brains behind our tech company, Innovate. Arthur, 39M, was always supposed to be the charismatic front man, a role he played well enough. We've been married for 15 years and partners in the business for the last 10. We've had our ups and downs, but I always thought that we were a solid team. Recently, I noticed that some of our cutting-edge tech schematics seemed to be missing after he came to the office. When I brought it up, he brushed it off as me misplacing them, which wasn't the case. But it seemed like every time something big was in progress, it mysteriously would go missing. For the most part, I just chalked it up to it being a simple oversight. However, things didn't really add up because our R&D team has been making less progress than usual. And I wasn't seeing a lot of improvement in our development despite allocating more resources and labor into the project. So then I set up a hidden camera in my office just to see what was going on, and what I found out just shattered the trust in my marriage. My own husband had been copying all our confidential information onto a flash drive and sending it to a competitor firm called Synergy Tech. I was at first just shocked at the audacity. Arthur has always been resentful of my position in the company, because, even though we're supposed to be co-CEOs, I take all of the big decisions because his leadership skills are extremely subpar. It was even a running joke in our inner circle that I actually ran the company behind the scenes, while he was just the face. It was funny until now. I never considered that Arthur could be so threatened to stab me in the back. I even gave him half the shares because he made the business pitches to clients. He was good at that, at least. I've just been sitting here in shock, reviewing the footage, feeling like everything I've ever known has just been completely destroyed. I always believed him to be a man of his word, someone I could trust. It feels like everything is just a lie. So I have decided to go scorched earth. No one gets away with betraying me like this. I haven't spoken to Arthur yet. My plan is to gather all the evidence I need, including more surveillance of the transfer of information between companies, and then completely demolish him. All legal avenues will be pursued, of course, so it's going to be divorce plus lawsuit. I will keep everyone posted with what happens next. This is going to be a long, complicated process, but I'm going to see it through. Update 1. I've been working tirelessly over the last few weeks, gathering as much evidence as possible. I've discovered that Arthur is in deep with Synergy Tech. He's not just passing them schematics, he's actively consulting with them, and I'm certain they paid him large sums of money for the information. I've also uncovered several hidden bank accounts linked to Arthur, which he's been using to deposit all that money that was essentially stolen from me. He's been very thorough in his operations, and he thought I would never find out, but I'm smarter. I was so blind, I didn't see this coming, but I have all the cards. Our marriage and partnership, our entire life that we built together, is a complete farce. I'm feeling a mixture of fury, sadness, and a strange kind of determination. I just can't believe that the man that I shared so much of my life with could be capable of such a ruthless betrayal. It seems like he was only ever pretending to care. I finally confronted Arthur yesterday. I had all the documents printed out, his meetings with Synergy Tech on video, bank statements, and everything all organized neatly and waiting on our dining table for him when he got back from work. When he walked in, he seemed completely unconcerned. I just pointed at the table of evidence and asked him to explain. He initially tried to deny everything, claiming that the documents were fake. I then played the video, where he is clearly talking about my company's R&D. He immediately shut up after that. He looked so shocked, like he had no idea I was capable of uncovering his plan. His face fell when he realized how thorough I was. All those weeks of careful planning and meticulous gathering of evidence really paid off. I told him that I was done, and that I have no intention of ever being in the same room with him ever again. He then tried to make it sound like he was doing this for us and our future, that he did it for me, how he was saving our company from impending doom and needed to find an alternate investor. I really just wanted to vomit from the lies. I wasn't surprised by the pathetic excuses. What did make me boil inside was when he said that I needed to stop focusing so hard on the company and that a woman should focus more on family values and such nonsense. I really let loose after that, told him how pathetic and small-minded he was, and then showed him the legal documents for divorce and a lawsuit for all the damages he caused, not just against me but against our company. He still tried to justify everything, tried to make it look like this was all my fault because I was a bad wife and a terrible boss. He asked me why I had to be so heartless, so angry. I just looked at him with cold eyes, packed a bag, and told him that our lives are over. I just walked away without another word. Now my legal team is working on the process. I know this is going to be a messy and difficult battle, but I am prepared. I'll keep everyone updated when anything new comes to light. This has been a really challenging time, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who's offered words of encouragement. Update 2. Things have been moving rapidly. My lawyers served Arthur with the divorce papers and the lawsuit, and he's been in a complete tailspin. He's trying to claim he was acting in good faith, that he had the best interests of the company at heart. But the evidence I have against him is so overwhelming that it's simply impossible for him to spin this in his favor. I also made sure that the local media is all over this. I know some people advised against it, but I really didn't care. I wanted this to be as painful as possible. I want him to be known to be a pathetic excuse of a human being who backstabbed his own wife. He called me non-stop, with all sorts of threats and insults. I simply block his number after each call. He's also trying to negotiate his way out of it and offer a smaller settlement to avoid jail time. I refused all his offers. My goal isn't just to get back what he stole. My goal is to ensure that he pays for what he did to me, not just in money but in reputation. He's now desperate because all of his friends and business partners have been distancing themselves from him since the news broke out. It looks like Synergy Tech has also put him on ice, as they have no intention of being dragged down with Arthur. It has also come out that Synergy Tech isn't actually his end goal. Apparently he was planning on doing something else that was a lot more destructive, but for now I'm not certain what. I will make sure to expose his lies. The divorce is underway, and the company is undergoing some serious restructuring. It has become clear that he has corrupted every aspect of the company, and I needed to clean house in order to start building again. I've fired a lot of the employees, hired fresh new talent that was loyal and transparent. I think we're finally going to be okay. Arthur is just a stain now. A terrible stain I want to get rid of. I'm now focusing on rebuilding Innovate, ensuring that we have even better security measures and also moving on with my life. It's not going to be easy, but I'm determined to be better because I deserve better. This ordeal has been devastating. It's like I've woken up from a very long dream where I genuinely thought I was happy. A dream that felt so real. I'm grateful for everyone's support through this difficult period. I will post another update to finalize the results. Update 3. The legal battle has concluded. Arthur is officially divorced, completely stripped of his shares in Innovate, and faces significant jail time. I'm also going to be pursuing further criminal charges once the other case closes. Because it turns out, he was planning on starting a different company with all of the information he stole. It looks like his plan was to sell that company to a different competitor, a much bigger one, which was going to essentially destroy my current company and make a lot of people lose their jobs. It also seems that they were involved in the whole scheme from the very beginning. He was hoping he would get his payday and walk away scot-free. It appears that karma came for Arthur. Synergy Tech is now undergoing a very thorough investigation, and most of the people associated are being prosecuted as well. I have to say, watching their downfall was very satisfying. It was truly the most cathartic thing I've ever experienced. Arthur, having exhausted every possible legal tactic and with his reputation in tatters, was left utterly defeated. It was satisfying to watch him be brought to his knees. Now, he must face the consequences of his actions. He destroyed all our trust, our marriage, our company, all for money, and I honestly can't understand what drove him to do that. The company is still in recovery, but we're stronger than ever. All of Arthur's associates are gone. I took the opportunity to promote the most qualified, the most loyal, and the most honest of our employees. I feel that we've gotten over this hurdle, and we're finally able to see the light. This whole ordeal has been a difficult and transformative experience. It's forced me to become a lot stronger, more resilient, and extremely careful about who I choose to trust. The pain was horrific, but it also taught me a lot about myself and my potential. I know that it will take time to fully heal. My trust has been broken in a way that will probably take a long time to mend, but I have so much more energy, love, and ambition now. Thank you once again for all of your support during this ordeal. It made a massive difference. I'm taking a break, a long-deserved one, and I'm choosing to focus on myself, on my company, and on a much brighter future. Maybe one day I'll be open to love again, but it won't be today. For now, I'm choosing to be happy with all that I have accomplished and to look towards a better future.